Billionaire stops for a homeless woman with a baby. The truth breaks his heart. The black car slowed at the red light, and for the first time that day, he looked away from his phone. On the sidewalk ahead, a woman stood in the cold rain, holding a baby so tightly it looked like she was afraid the world might take the child from her at any second. Ethan Hale was used to ignoring things like this. As one of the youngest billionaires in the city, he had learned how to look straight ahead. Meetings waited for no one. Numbers did not cry. Contracts did not shiver in the rain. But something about the way the woman bent her head over the baby made his chest feel tight, as if an old door inside him had been pushed open. The light stayed red. The driver cleared his throat. "Sir, should we take the longer route, traffic ahead?" Ethan did not answer. His eyes stayed on the sidewalk. The woman was thin. Her coat was too big and torn at the sleeve. It had once been gray, but now it was the color of wet dust. Her shoes were soaked through. She held a cardboard sign in one hand, though the rain had washed most of the words away. Only one line could still be read. "Please help. I have a baby." The baby was very small, wrapped in a faded blue blanket. One tiny hand slipped out red from the cold. The woman noticed and quickly tucked it back in, whispering something Ethan could not hear. "Have you ever seen a stranger and felt like their pain was calling your name?" Ethan shifted in his seat. His mind told him to look away. His heart refused. He remembered other streets long ago. He remembered cold nights and a crying sound that never seemed to stop. He had spent years burying those memories under success, under glass towers and applause. He did not want them back. A man in a business suit walked past the woman without slowing down. A young couple crossed the street to avoid her. A taxi splashed water near her feet. She did not move. She just stood there rocking the baby, her lips moving in silent words. The light was still red. "Stop the car," Ethan said suddenly. The driver blinked. "Sir, pull over. Right there." The car stopped near the curb. Rain tapped softly against the roof. For a moment, Ethan stayed still, his hand on the door handle. He did not know why he was doing this. He only knew that if he did not, something inside him would break in a way money could never fix. He stepped out into the rain. The woman looked up when she heard footsteps. Her eyes widened, then quickly filled with fear. She pulled the baby closer, as if expecting him to shout or push her away. "I'm not here to hurt you," Ethan said, raising his hand slightly. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Too soft. She nodded, but her shoulders stayed tense. "Your baby," he said. "Is he okay?" For a second, her control cracked. Her eyes dropped to the small face against her chest. The woman whispered. "She's sick. I just need something warm for her. Milk, a place to rest. Just for a little while." The baby made a weak sound, barely louder than the rain. Ethan felt his breath catch. That sound. He knew that sound. "What's your name?" he asked. The woman hesitated. "Lena, and the baby Emma." Ethan looked at the child again. Too pale, too still. "Come with me," he said before he could stop himself. Lena froze. "I don't want trouble, I promise," Ethan said. "Just let me help." The rain fell harder. The baby whimpered once more. Lena looked down at Emma, then back at Ethan. Her eyes were full of fear, and something else. Hope, maybe, or desperation. She took one small step toward him, and in that moment, Ethan did not know that the truth behind this woman and this baby was about to tear open a wound he had never truly healed. Lena sat at the edge of the leather seat like she was afraid to leave a mark. The car smelled clean, like polished wood and light perfume. Everything inside felt warm, quiet, and expensive. It made her feel even more wet and small. Emma lay in her arms, still wrapped in the faded blue blanket. Her tiny face was turned toward Lena's chest. Her breathing was shallow and fast. Every few seconds, Lena pressed her lips to the baby's forehead, as if she could warm her with love alone. Ethan watched from across the seat. He tried not to stare, but he could not stop himself. A baby this small should not look so tired. A mother this young should not look this afraid. What hospital did you go to? Ethan asked. Lena's eyes flicked up then down again. I didn't. Ethan frowned. Why not? Her throat moved like she swallowed something sharp. Because they ask for papers. They ask for money. They ask for things I don't have. You don't have insurance. She gave a small, bitter laugh that had no humor. I don't even have a home. The driver glanced in the mirror, then back to the road. The city moved past the windows, bright shops, people with umbrellas, lights reflecting on wet streets. Lena looked at the world outside like it belonged to someone else. Ethan leaned forward slightly. Where are you staying? Lena hesitated. Her fingers tightened around the blanket. Wherever I can, she said quietly. Sometimes behind the old grocery store, sometimes in the stairwell of the parking building, sometimes in a shelter if there's space. Ethan's jaw tightened. And you have a baby. In the rain, Lena's eyes flashed. Do you think I want this? She said, her voice shaking. Do you think I like begging? She looked down at Emma again, and her voice broke. I just want her to live. The words landed hard. Ethan looked away for a second toward the window. In the glass, he saw his own reflection, a clean coat, a watch worth more than most people's yearly rent, a face that the news called calm and powerful. He felt sick, not because of her anger, because she was right. The car stopped under a covered entrance. Ethan stepped out and held the door for Lena. She hesitated again, then climbed out carefully, keeping Emma's head protected from the rain. A private clinic sign glowed above them. The building was bright, warm, and quiet, the kind of place Lena had only seen from outside. Lena's eyes widened. I can't go in there. Yes, you can, Ethan said. They'll throw me out. They won't, he said, and his voice left no space for argument. Inside, the air smelled clean and warm. A receptionist looked up ready to smile. Then her expression changed when she saw Lena's soaked clothes. Her eyes moved quickly to Ethan, and recognition replaced judgment. Mr. Hale, she said, standing up. Of course. How can we help? Ethan nodded once. The baby needs a doctor. Now. Everything moved fast after that. Lena barely understood what was happening. A nurse guided them into a room. Another nurse handed Lena a dry towel. Someone checked Emma's temperature. Someone listened to her chest. Lena stood there shaking, not just from cold, from fear that someone would take Emma, from fear that she would be blamed, from fear that she had already waited too long. When the doctor came in, he was calm and serious. He examined Emma carefully. Lena watched every touch like it might hurt her baby. Finally, the doctor looked at Lena. How long has she been like this? Lena's lips trembled. 2 days, she whispered. It got worse last night. She wouldn't drink. She just cried and cried, and then today she got quiet. Her voice cracked. Quiet is scary. The doctor nodded slowly. You were right to come. She's dehydrated, and she has a respiratory infection. She needs fluids and careful monitoring. Lena swayed slightly. Ethan stepped closer, ready to catch her if she fell. Will she be okay? Lena asked, and her voice sounded like a child asking for permission to breathe. We'll do everything we can, the doctor said. But she's very small. We need to start treatment immediately. Lena's knees felt weak. She sat down hard in the chair, her hands pressed together like a prayer. She stared at Emma as nurses began attaching a small IV. Emma's tiny arm looked painfully fragile. Ethan stood behind Lena, silent. A nurse asked Lena questions, date of birth, medical history, vaccinations. Lena answered what she could. Some questions she could not answer at all. The nurse softened a little. It's okay, she said gently. Just tell us what you know. Lena nodded quickly, blinking back tears. I know she likes when I hum, she whispered. I know she stops crying when I rub her cheek. I know she hates the cold. Her voice broke again. I know she deserves better than me. Ethan's stomach twisted at that last sentence. You don't get to say that, he said quietly. Lena looked up surprised. Ethan's eyes were steady. You kept her alive this long with nothing? That's not nothing. That's strength. Lena stared at him like she did not know how to accept kindness without paying for it. A few minutes later, the doctor stepped outside with Ethan. Lena could see them through the glass window, their faces serious. She couldn't hear the words, but she saw Ethan's posture change. His shoulders tightened, his jaw clenched. Fear crawled up Lena's throat. When Ethan came back and his expression was controlled, but his eyes looked darker. They're going to keep her here tonight, he said. Lena gripped the edge of the chair. Can I stay? Ethan did not hesitate. Yes. Lena's eyes filled with tears again. I don't have money. Stop, Ethan said softly. Just stay with your baby. Hours passed slowly. Lena sat beside the small hospital bed, watching Emma's chest rise and fall. The clinic was quiet at night with soft footsteps in the hallway and low voices behind doors. The rain outside finally eased into a steady drip. Ethan left for a while to take calls, then returned. He did not sit far away. He stayed in the same room sometimes, reading emails, sometimes just watching Lena and Emma. At one point, Lena's stomach growled. She tried to ignore it, embarrassed. Ethan stood up and returned with food, soup, bread, tea. He set it on a small table. Lena stared at it. I can't. You can, Ethan said. Eat. Her hands shook as she lifted the spoon. The first taste of warm soup made her eyes sting again. She ate quickly like someone afraid the food might disappear. After she finished, she wiped her mouth and stared at her wet shoes on the floor. I'm sorry, she whispered. Ethan looked up. For what? For being like this, Lena said. Her voice was small. For bringing my mess into your clean world. Ethan's expression tightened like her words hit something inside him. Tell me, he said, after a moment, how did you end up out there? Lena hesitated. Then she took a slow breath, as if opening a door she tried to keep locked. I grew up in a small town, she began, not far from here. My mom worked 2 jobs. My dad left when I was 8. He said he'd come back. He never did. She swallowed. When my mom got sick, I dropped out of school to help. I cleaned houses, served food, anything. Ethan listened without interrupting. Lena continued, her eyes fixed on Emma. When my mom died, I had no one. The landlord wanted rent. The bills kept coming. I tried to stay. I tried to be strong. She let out a shaky breath. I met someone. He was kind at first. He said he would help me. He said he loved me. Ethan's face hardened slightly. Lena's voice turned flat like she was trying not to feel. When I got pregnant, he changed. He said the baby wasn't his. He said I trapped him. He pushed me. He yelled. One night he threw my phone against the wall. Her hands tightened. I left with nothing. I thought shelters would help. I thought the city had support. She laughed softly, a tired sound. The city has support if you know the right people, if you have the right papers, if you have time to stand in lines all day. But when you have a baby, time is different. Everything is urgent. Ethan looked down at his hands. He thought of all the times he had walked past charity events without looking at the faces. He thought of donations that felt big but were nothing to him. Lena's voice softened again. I tried to work after Emma was born. But who hires a woman with a newborn and no address? I tried to leave Emma with a woman at the shelter for an hour. She fell asleep. Emma cried until she vomited. Tears rolled down Lena's cheeks, now unstoppable. After that, I stopped trying. I just held her, and I begged. I hated myself every second. Ethan's throat felt tight. He remembered being a kid, hungry, angry, ashamed. He remembered the feeling of being invisible. Lena wiped her tears quickly, embarrassed. I'm sorry, she repeated. I talk too much. No, Ethan said. You finally got to talk. Lena looked at him again, and for the first time her eyes held a little less fear. A nurse came in to check Emma's vitals. Emma made a small sound, then settled again. The nurse smiled gently. She's responding, she said. That's good. Lena let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. When the nurse left, Lena whispered, Thank you. Ethan nodded once, but his face looked troubled, like something was still turning inside him. Lena noticed. What's wrong? She asked quietly. Ethan did not answer right away. He looked at Emma, then at Lena, then away again, as if deciding something. Finally, he said, When she's stable, you can't go back out there. Lena's body stiffened. I don't have anywhere else. You will, Ethan said. Lena stared at him. Why, she asked almost harshly. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. Ethan's eyes flickered. For a second, something raw appeared in them. Pain, maybe. Or guilt. He spoke slowly. Because I know what it's like to be left behind. Lena's breath caught. You're Ethan Hale. And before that, Ethan said, voice quiet, I was just a kid who needed someone to stop. Lena's hands trembled again, but this time it was not from cold. Ethan took out his phone and typed a quick message. Then he looked at her. I have an apartment near here, he said. It's safe, warm. You and Emma can stay there once she's discharged. Lena shook her head quickly. No, I can't accept that. Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't push. He just said, Then tell me where you're going to go tomorrow with a baby who's been fighting to breathe. Lena opened her mouth, but no words came. She looked down at Emma, and her face crumpled. That was the moment Ethan saw it clearly. Lena wasn't refusing help because she didn't want it. She was refusing because her whole life had taught her that help always came with a price, and Ethan, without fully knowing why, felt determined to prove her wrong. Lena's voice came out in a whisper. If I say yes, will you take her away from me? Ethan's chest tightened. No, he said firmly. I won't. Lena searched his face, desperate to find any sign of a lie. Ethan held her gaze, not looking away. After a long silence, Lena nodded once, very small. Okay, she whispered. Ethan exhaled slowly, like he had been holding his breath too. Outside, the rain finally stopped. The city lights reflected on the wet ground like broken glass. And as Lena sat beside her baby's bed, she did not know that Ethan's promise was about to be tested by a truth neither of them was ready to face. The next morning, sunlight slipped through the tall windows of Ethan Hale's office, touching the polished floor and the framed awards on the walls. From the outside, the building looked like power made of glass and steel. Inside, everything was quiet, controlled perfect. Ethan sat at the long table during the board meeting, his hands folded, his face calm. Around him, executives spoke about numbers, expansion plans, and market confidence. Screens showed rising charts and smiling headlines. Your leadership has never been stronger, one of them said. Investors trust you completely. Ethan nodded slightly. Let's move on. No one noticed the weight in his chest. No one could see how his thoughts were not in the room at all. They were somewhere else, in a small hospital room, with a baby breathing through thin tubes, with a woman who watched every breath like it might be the last. When the meeting ended, people stood and chatted, relaxed and confident. Ethan stayed seated for a moment, staring at the table. The sound of voices faded into a low hum. Money had given him control over almost everything. Time, space, safety, respect. But it had never touched the one place inside him that stayed empty. His assistant knocked lightly and stepped in. Mr. Hale, the charity board is waiting on your decision. The annual children's fund, cancel, Ethan said quietly. She blinked. Sir, reschedule, he corrected. I need to be elsewhere. He stood, grabbed his coat, and walked out before she could ask more. As the elevator descended, Ethan closed his eyes. Images from the past came back without warning. A cramped apartment, a mother coughing into a cloth, a boy sitting on the floor counting coins to see if they could afford dinner. He had been 12 when his mother died. Pneumonia, no insurance, no early treatment. She had told him she was fine. She always said that. After that, everything fell apart. He moved through foster homes, shelters, borrowed couches. He learned early that help was uncertain and love was temporary. He promised himself that one day he would never need anyone again, and he had kept that promise. Too well. The car took him back to the clinic. When he walked in, the nurse recognized him and nodded. "The baby is stable," she said softly. "The mother is with her." Ethan felt something loosen in his chest. He entered the room quietly. Lena sat beside Emma, humming under her breath. Her hair was still damp, pulled back in a messy knot. Her eyes were tired but softer than before. "She slept," Lena whispered when she saw him, "for almost an hour." "That's good," Ethan said. Lena looked up at him. "You didn't have to come back. I wanted to." She nodded slowly, as if still learning how to accept that. Later that day, while doctors spoke and paperwork was handled, Ethan stepped into the hallway and made a call. The name on the screen made his jaw tighten. "Daniel," he said when the call connected. His younger brother's voice came through smooth and sharp. "Ethan, this is unexpected. I need information," Ethan said, quietly. Daniel laughed softly. "You always do." "There's a woman," Ethan continued, "and a baby. I need to know if there's anything from the past that connects to me." There was a pause. "That's vague," Daniel said. "And strange." "Just do it," Ethan said. "Please." Daniel's tone shifted, curiosity slipping in. "You sound shaken." Ethan looked through the glass into the room where Lena sat, her hand resting on Emma's chest. "I am. I'll see what I can find," Daniel said. "But you're chasing ghosts." The call ended. That evening, Emma was cleared to leave the clinic with instructions and medication. Ethan's car waited outside. Lena stepped out slowly, holding Emma close, her movements, careful and protective. The apartment Ethan offered was not large, but it was clean, warm, and safe. Lena stood just inside the door, frozen, like she was afraid the floor might disappear. "It's too much," she whispered. "It's just a place," Ethan said. She walked from room to room, touching the couch, the sink, the bed, as if confirming they were real. When she reached the small crib set up in the corner, her hands covered her mouth. "For her?" she asked. "Yes." Lena's knees gave out. She sank onto the couch, tears streaming freely now. "I don't know how to thank you." "Stay," Ethan said. "That's enough." Over the next few days, Ethan visited often, sometimes with supplies, sometimes with food, sometimes with nothing but quiet company. He watched how Lena cared for Emma with endless patience, how she whispered to her, sang to her, apologized when she cried. He also noticed how Lena flinched at loud sounds, how she checked the locks twice, how she never asked for more than she was offered. One afternoon, Ethan arrived to find Lena folding clothes carefully. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I want to," she replied. "I need to feel useful." He nodded. He understood that need. As they talked, Ethan learned more about her. She liked simple things: warm tea, quiet mornings, watching people from a distance. She laughed softly, like she wasn't used to hearing herself do it. And slowly, without meaning to, Ethan began to care. Not out of pity, not out of guilt, but because every time he looked at Emma, he felt a pull deep in his chest, a strange familiarity, a sense of something unfinished. Late one night, Ethan sat alone in his office reviewing documents Daniel had sent. Most were useless, dead ends, old records. Then one file made his breath stop: a name, a date, a connection he had not expected. Ethan stared at the screen, his hands shaking slightly. The baby's age, the timeline, a detail he had ignored because it seemed impossible. His phone buzzed. A message from Daniel appeared. "We need to talk. Now." Ethan leaned back in his chair, heart pounding. Across the city, Lena rocked Emma to sleep, unaware that the truth about her child was already moving toward them, fast and unforgiving. And when their paths crossed again, nothing would ever be the same. The call came just after midnight. Ethan stood by the window of his office, the city spread out below him, in a pattern of lights and shadows. His phone vibrated in his hand again, impatient. "Daniel," he said, answering. "You should sit down," Daniel replied. Ethan did not move. "Just tell me." There was a pause on the line, heavier than silence. "I checked everything you asked for," Daniel said slowly. "Hospital records, shelter registrations, old case files. It took some favors." And Ethan pressed. "And the baby," Daniel said. "Emma, her date of birth matches the timeline from when you disappeared for 6 months after Mom died." Ethan's chest tightened. "That doesn't mean anything." "It does when paired with the mother's name," Daniel continued. "Lena Morales. She filed a report years ago. Assault, abandonment. The father's name was listed but crossed out. No follow-up." Ethan felt dizzy. Why would that matter? Because Daniel said quietly, "The man listed was you." The world seemed to tilt. "That's impossible," Ethan said. "I was 21. I was barely surviving. I didn't. You were drinking." Daniel interrupted gently. "You were angry. You were sleeping on couches. You disappeared a lot." Ethan closed his eyes. Fragments came back. A woman crying. A cheap apartment. A night he never spoke about again because it was easier to erase it than face it. "I didn't know," Ethan whispered. "I believe that," Daniel said. "But Ethan, the child could be yours." The call ended with no comfort, no answers. Just truth hanging in the air like a blade. Ethan did not sleep that night. The next morning he went to the apartment early. He stood outside the door longer than necessary, his hand hovering near the bell. When he finally knocked, Lena opened the door with Emma in her arms. "You're early," Lena said softly. "May I come in?" Ethan asked. She stepped aside. Inside, sunlight warmed the small room. Emma was awake, her eyes half open, her tiny fingers curled around the edge of the blanket. Ethan felt his throat tighten when he looked at her. "She's better today," Lena said. She drank a little more. "That's good," Ethan replied, though his voice sounded far away to him. They sat across from each other. Lena sensed something was wrong. Did something happen? Ethan opened his mouth, closed it. He did not know how to say what he had learned. He did not know if he had the right. Before he could speak, a loud shout came from outside. A man stumbled on the sidewalk below. He was yelling at someone on the phone, angry, careless. He stepped off the curb without looking. A car sped around the corner. "Wait," Lena gasped. Without thinking, Lena ran. She pushed the stroller aside, clutching Emma tight, and reached the man just as the car slammed its brakes. The bumper stopped inches from his legs. People shouted. The driver swore. The man stared at Lena in shock. "Are you blind?" Lena yelled, shaking. "There's a baby here." The man looked down, ashamed. I'm sorry." Lena backed away slowly, her heart racing. Ethan reached her just as her knees buckled. "Are you okay?" he asked, gripping her arm. She nodded, breathless. "I didn't think. I just moved." Ethan looked at Emma, unharmed, then back at Lena. In that moment, everything inside him shifted. This woman had nothing, and yet she risked everything without hesitation. Later, when things were calm again, Ethan made a decision. "Lena," he said carefully, "I want to help you long term." She stiffened. "You already have." "I mean more," he said. "Training, work, stability. I can connect you with programs, education, a real start." Lena hesitated. "Why?" Ethan swallowed. "Because you deserve it." She searched his face. "And what do you want in return?" Nothing, Ethan said, except honesty and time. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Lena nodded. "Okay." That single word changed everything. Ethan arranged childcare support, medical follow-ups, and a small stipend that allowed Lena to focus on recovery and learning. She enrolled in a basic caregiving course. It was hard. She doubted herself often. but she showed up every day. One evening, as Ethan watched Lena studying while Emma slept nearby, he realized something painful and beautiful at the same time. He did not just want to help them, he wanted to protect them. And as that truth settled in his chest, he knew the next step would demand the one thing he feared most: the truth. The weeks that followed moved slowly, but they moved forward. Lena's days began early. Emma usually woke just before sunrise, making soft sounds that pulled Lena from sleep. The apartment was quiet at that hour, filled with pale light and the hum of the city far below. Lena learned the rhythm of her daughter's breathing again, learned which cries meant hunger and which meant discomfort. After feeding Emma, Lena would sit by the window with a cup of tea Ethan's assistant had stocked for her. She still felt strange drinking it from a real mug, not a paper cup. Some habits were hard to let go. 3 days a week, a caregiver came for a few hours so Lena could attend her course. The first morning, Lena almost canceled. She stood at the door, bag in hand, her heart racing. "What if she needs me?" Lena whispered, bending over the crib. The caregiver smiled gently. "I'll call you right away if she does." Lena hesitated, then nodded. She kissed Emma's forehead and stepped outside, her hands shaking. The classroom was small and plain. Lena sat in the back, afraid to speak. Most of the other students had homes, families, normal lives. She felt like an outsider. But when the instructor asked questions, Lena listened closely. She took notes. She stayed after class to ask for help. At night, she studied while Emma slept beside her. Sometimes her eyes burned with exhaustion. Sometimes she wanted to give up. Ethan visited often. Not every day, but enough that his presence became familiar instead of frightening. He never came empty-handed. Sometimes it was groceries, sometimes books, sometimes nothing at all. One evening, he found Lena sitting on the floor surrounded by papers. "I'm terrible at this," she muttered. Ethan knelt beside her. "You're learning. That's not the same thing." He smiled faintly. "It is when you don't quit." She looked at him surprised. "You sound like you've said that before." "I've told it to myself," he said. They sat in silence for a moment. Emma slept peacefully in the crib. "Why do you come so often?" Lena asked quietly. Ethan hesitated. "Because I like knowing you're okay." Lena nodded, accepting the answer without pushing further. Slowly, trust grew between them. Lena stopped flinching when Ethan entered the room. She laughed more. She started asking questions about things she had never dared to imagine before. Work, saving money, a future. One afternoon, Ethan brought Lena to a small community center he supported. "They're looking for part-time help," he said. "Administrative work, light hours. They know your situation." Lena stared at the building. "You told them about me?" "I told them you're capable," Ethan replied. She swallowed. "What if I fail?" "Then you learn," he said simply. Lena got the job. The first paycheck was small, but when she held it in her hands, she cried. She pressed it to her chest like proof that she existed again. "I earned this," she whispered. "Yes," Ethan said. "You did." As the weeks passed, something else changed. Ethan stayed longer when he visited. Sometimes he ate dinner with Lena. Sometimes they talked late into the night while Emma slept. Lena learned that Ethan hated silence even though he lived in it, that he drank his coffee black, that he avoided talking about his childhood unless asked directly. Ethan learned that Lena used to love drawing, that she missed her mother deeply, that she still dreamed about the street sometimes and woke up afraid. One night as they washed dishes together, Lena asked softly, "Do you ever feel lonely?" Ethan froze for a second. Then he nodded. "Every day." She looked at him with gentle understanding. "Even with all this makes it louder," he admitted. Their eyes met. Something warm and uncertain passed between them. Neither of them spoke of it. "Do you believe one act of kindness can really change a destiny?" Not everyone was happy about Lena's growing presence. At the office, whispers started. Some employees noticed how often Ethan left early, how a woman and a baby appeared at company events where he donated quietly. Questions followed. Who is she? One assistant asked another. At the community center, a woman named Claire watched Lena closely. Claire had worked there for years and believed she deserved more recognition. She did not like how Lena arrived with support and quiet protection. That woman is getting special treatment, Claire muttered one day. Lena felt the tension but tried to ignore it. She focused on her work, on Emma, on surviving one step at a time. One evening, Ethan received a message from Daniel. Be careful, it read. People are starting to ask questions. Ethan looked at the phone, then at Lena playing with Emma on the floor. Emma laughed softly, reaching for Lena's hair. Ethan felt the familiar pull in his chest again. Stronger now, more dangerous. He knew the truth he carried could destroy everything they were building. And somewhere nearby, resentment was growing, waiting for the right moment to strike. The trouble did not arrive all at once. It came quietly, wrapped in polite smiles and careful words. Lena noticed it first at the community center. Conversation stopped when she entered a room. People who once greeted her warmly now looked past her. Claire's smiles became sharper, her questions more pointed. How did you get this job again? Claire asked one afternoon, pretending to organize files. You didn't have much experience, did you? Lena kept her voice calm. I applied. I interviewed. Claire raised an eyebrow. With Mr. Hale's recommendation. Lena felt heat rise in her chest. I work hard, she said. I don't get special treatment. Claire smiled thinly. Of course. A week later, the director called Lena into the office. There's been a complaint, the director said gently. Lena's stomach dropped. About what misuse of resources, the director replied. Someone claims you've been taking supplies home. Diapers, food. Lena's face went pale. I would never do that. We need to investigate, the director said. Until then, we'll have to suspend you. The word echoed in Lena's head. Suspend. She walked home in a daze, Emma asleep against her chest. Old fears clawed their way back. The streets looked colder again, louder. She checked behind her, twice, her heart racing. When Ethan arrived that evening, he knew something was wrong the moment he saw her face. What happened? He asked. Lena tried to speak, but the words tangled. Finally, she whispered, They think I stole. Ethan's jaw tightened. Who? I don't know, she said, though she did. They suspended me. Ethan stood up. I'll handle this. Lena grabbed his arm. No, please. If you step in, it will only prove what they already think. He stopped, conflicted. I need to fight this myself, Lena said, her voice shaking but firm. I won't survive losing everything again. Ethan nodded slowly. Then I'll stand behind you. The investigation moved fast and unfairly. Security footage went missing. Receipts were questioned. Claire's voice carried weight in meetings. At the same time, rumors spread beyond the center. A blog post appeared online, anonymous, carefully worded, Billionaire's secret charity case. The headline read, It spoke of a homeless woman with a baby, special housing, special jobs, private help. It hinted at manipulation, at lies, at a woman who used pity to climb. Lena read it on her phone late at night and felt sick. Is this how people see me? She whispered. Ethan found her sitting on the floor, the article open in her hands. I'll shut this down, he said immediately. No, Lena said. Tears streamed down her face. If you do, they'll say it's true. Ethan felt the pressure close in from all sides. His board called emergency meetings. Donors asked questions. Daniel warned him the press was watching closely. You need to distance yourself, Daniel said over the phone. At least publicly. Ethan looked at Lena across the room, holding Emma, whispering comfort to her. I won't, he said, but the pressure kept building. The community center's board requested Ethan's presence. Claire sat across the table, calm and confident. This is about integrity, Claire said. We can't have our organization tied to scandal. Ethan looked directly at her. There is no scandal. There is a woman fighting to survive. Claire folded her hands. Then let her prove it without your influence. Ethan realized then that this was not about truth. It was about control. That night, Lena made a decision of her own. Ethan arrived at the apartment to find a note on the table. I can't let you burn for me. I'm going to stay at a shelter until this is over. Please don't follow. His chest felt like it split open. He found Lena 2 hours later, anyway, sitting on a narrow bed in a crowded room, Emma asleep beside her. You don't get to disappear, Ethan said, his voice breaking. Not like this. Lena looked up at him, eyes full of pain. You don't get to lose everything because of me. Ethan knelt in front of her. Listen to me. I've lost things before. I know what it feels like. I'm not afraid of it anymore. She shook her head. I am. Silence fell between them. Then Ethan spoke the words he had been avoiding. There's something you need to know. Lena's breath caught. What I had Daniel investigate, Ethan said slowly, because something felt wrong, familiar. Her eyes searched his face. The records, he continued, the timeline. Lena, Emma might be my daughter. The room seemed to stop breathing. Lena stood up so fast the bed creaked. What did you say I didn't know? Ethan said urgently. I swear. I would never get away from us, Lena said, her voice sharp with terror. Don't say that. Don't touch her. Tears poured down her face, now anger and fear mixed together. You think this helps? You think this doesn't destroy everything I'm telling you? Because you deserve the truth, Ethan said. Because I'm not walking away. Lena laughed, broken and hollow. You already walked away once. The words cut deep. At that moment, the shelter door opened. Claire stepped inside, holding her phone. I wondered where you ran, Claire said calmly. This makes things much easier. Ethan turned, fury flashing in his eyes. You did this. Claire smiled. The truth always comes out. Lena looked between them, shaking. Claire raised her phone. I have proof. Messages, records, and now this. She looked at Ethan. A possible child. Imagine the headlines. Ethan stepped forward. What do you want? Claire's smile widened. I want her gone. Quietly. And I want your public apology. Ethan did not hesitate. No. He turned to Lena. I'm done hiding. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Release everything he said. All records, all footage, every donation trail, and Claire's emails. Claire's face changed. Within hours, the truth exploded. Security footage resurfaced showing Claire taking supplies and planting evidence. Emails revealed her attempts to manipulate the board. The blog post traced back to her IP address. By morning, Claire was removed from her position, publicly, permanently. The community center issued an apology, and Ethan stood in front of cameras holding nothing back. I won't abandon the people I help, he said, and I won't be ashamed of caring. Lena watched from the shelter, Emma in her arms, her world shattered and rebuilt at the same time. The fight was over, but healing had only just begun. The noise faded faster than Lena expected. After the truth came out, the shelter felt quieter. People whispered less. Staff smiled at her again, unsure, careful. No one looked at her like a problem anymore. Still, Lena stayed close to Emma, as if the world might change its mind. Ethan came the next morning, not in a suit, not with cameras or lawyers, just a coat, tired eyes, and 2 cups of coffee he didn't know if she would take. I won't push, he said softly, standing a few steps away. I just wanted you to know I'm here. Lena looked at him for a long time. Emma slept against her chest, warm and safe. You broke something in me, Lena said finally. Her voice was calm, not angry. When you said that about Emma, Ethan nodded. I know. I spent months afraid someone would take her, she continued. And then you said the one thing that made that fear real. I'm sorry, he said. The words were simple, but they carried weight. I should have waited. I should have protected you better. Lena's eyes filled, but she did not look away. Why now, she asked. Why come back after all this? Because walking away would prove every bad thing you think about me, Ethan replied. And because whether Emma is my child or not, I love her, and I care about you. The word love hung between them, fragile and honest. A few days later, Lena returned to the apartment. It no longer felt like borrowed space. It felt earned. The locks were fixed. The pantry was full. A small plant sat on the windowsill, something Ethan had left without comment. Life did not return to normal. It became something new. The community center reinstated Lena with a public apology. The director shook her hand and said, "We failed you. We won't again." Lena went back to work, head held higher. People listened to her now. They respected her. And when someone new arrived at the center with fear in their eyes, Lena noticed. She always noticed. Ethan stayed quieter in public after that. Less interviews, fewer events. But when he did speak, he spoke clearly. "I didn't succeed alone," he said once. "And I won't pretend I did." The paternity test took time, weeks that felt heavy. Lena did not ask about it. She focused on Emma's first laugh, her first steady sleep, the way she reached for Ethan's finger without fear. One evening, as rain tapped gently against the windows, Lena watched Ethan rock Emma in his arms. He was awkward, careful learning. "She likes you," Lena said. Ethan smiled softly. "I like her too." Silence followed, comfortable this time. "I don't need answers today," Lena said quietly. "About anything." Ethan looked at her. "Neither do I." When the results finally came, Ethan did not open them alone. He brought the envelope to the apartment and set it on the table between them. "Whatever this says," he said, "it doesn't change how I feel." Lena took a breath and nodded. "Okay." She opened it, read it once, then again. Emma was his daughter. Lena sat down slowly, the paper trembling in her hand. Ethan knelt in front of her eyes, searching her face, afraid of what he might see. "You don't get to disappear," Lena said quietly, echoing his words from weeks before. Then her voice broke. "But you don't get to own us either." Ethan nodded, tears in his eyes. "I want to be here, as her father, as your partner, if you'll let me." Lena looked down at Emma, then back at him. "I'm not asking for perfection," she said. "I'm asking for presence." Ethan reached out, careful, and took Lena's hand. "You'll have it." That night they sat together on the floor, Emma between them, building something fragile and real. Not a fairy tale, a beginning. Spring came quietly. The city felt softer somehow, like it had decided to give them space. In the morning, sunlight filled the apartment, and Lena no longer jumped at every sound. Emma learned to sit up, then crawl, her laughter filling rooms that once held only fear. Ethan changed too. He learned how to hold Emma when she cried at night. He learned how to listen when Lena went quiet. He learned that being present was not a performance. It was a choice made every day. One afternoon, they walked through a small park together. Emma sat between them in her stroller, reaching out for passing leaves. "She likes the light," Lena said. Ethan smiled. "She likes knowing we're both here." Lena looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time she felt no need to protect herself from the moment. Later that evening, after Emma fell asleep, Lena and Ethan sat on the couch, close but unhurried. "I don't know what the future looks like," Lena said softly. "That's okay," Ethan replied. "I'm not trying to control it. I just want to walk into it with you." Lena nodded. She leaned her head against his shoulder. He did not move. He did not rush. He stayed. And in that quiet, something finally healed. Sometimes life doesn't change because of grand plans or big promises. Sometimes it changes because one person stops, looks, and chooses to care. Kindness is not loud, but it can reach places pain has lived for years. Not everyone you help will repay you with gratitude, but some will repay you with truth. And sometimes the truth hurts before it heals. But when faced with honesty, courage, and compassion, even the most broken hearts can find a way forward. If this story moved you, take a moment to like and share it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe for more emotional stories about kindness, second chances, and unexpected love. And tell us in the comments, do you believe one moment can change a lifetime?